Hello everyone and welcome to our webinar on detection strategies for APT Cloud Initial Access. I'm Nandini Bharadwaj, the operating officer at CWL and your host for today's session. It's fantastic to have you all here with us today. So let's get started. We are CW Labs, a global infosec company shaping the future of cybersecurity learning with a presence across UK, US and India. Our mission is simple: make cybersecurity practical and accessible. We do this through our powerful division, that is niche cyber range labs, that is real world hands on cyber exercises. And number second is continuous learning infinity platform, a continuous learning hub built for modern cyber pros. Additionally, CWL provides customized on-site training for organization and accept bulk order to corporate upscaling. For inquiries or more detail, feel free to reach out us at support@cyberwarfare.live. So that's all about the company and thank you for being part of our webinar and we look forward for your continuous participation. Now let's move on to next slide. Okay, so our today's webinar speaker is Hari Suthan. He's a senior security engineer at CWL, where his passion for cybersecurity shines through his work. So that's all about the speaker. Dear participant, stick around till end of the webinar and get exclusive access to hands-on APT challenge on the Infinity Learning platform, where theory meets real-world threat simulation. So from here, without further ado, I would like Hari to take over and let's get started.
Hello everyone. Before further proceeding, can you confirm is my voice is audible? So let's quickly jump into our today's session. So it's going to be like uh, it's going to be majorly focusing on various adversarial tactics and techniques used especially for the cloud initial access techniques, and we will be parallelly get to understand what are all the detection strategy which have been get used for such initial access techniques. So like the table of content, it's get to be more precise. So first we will be discussing about the phases, various attack phases, which has been specifically targeting over the cloud environment. Once it's get to be discussed, so we will be exploring various adversarial techniques, especially in terms of initial access. So once we get to have a good understanding on the adversarial techniques on the initial access, so we will be proceed exploring various detection strategy for those particular initial access techniques. As mentioned, so at the end of this session, so we will be unveiling one of our two APT labs, which is get to be get you can get to access over it to perform and simulate various adversarial attacks over it. So without any further delay, let's quickly jump. So as we get to know about the Mitre matrix, so Mitre itself doesn't require a huge introduction over it. Like if we are getting into the world of cybersecurity, by default we get to have a very good understanding about those Mitre framework. So like as I mentioned, it doesn't require a huge introduction because it's quite familiar with many experts. So to give a short summary, my trays get to hold a maintain a record, so which get to have a collection of various tactics and techniques which get to be precisely used by the adversarial group. So this particular record will help in both red team and in terms of blue team. So like as in terms of red team, so we get to simulate and perform various assessment over the internal infrastructure. As in terms of blue teaming, we will get to have a like clear understanding how the adversarial has been get to performing over it. So as I said, Mitre matrix, like it's not only get to focusing on in terms of enterprise version, but it also get to be have a detailed set of information over the cloud infrastructure. So let me quickly show you. So under the matrix, so we get to have find a multiple field. So if we have been get to see, there will be a multiple operating system, uh, So if we have been specifically focusing on the cloud, so there is a huge set of records, so which consists of various tactics, techniques, and procedure, which has been specifically focusing on the cloud infrastructure. So here, as we know, the categorization might be quite similar as in terms of enterprise. So first, there will be a initial access, execution, persistence, privilege escalation, defense, evasion, credential access, discovery, lateral movement, collection, exfiltration, and impact. So our main target here is to get explore the various initial access techniques which has been specifically focusing over the cloud infrastructure. So as we get to know initial before the evolution of cloud, so there will be a structured way of investigation and detection approach as in terms of on-premise infrastructure, because the resource which is get to be deployed locally. So as in terms of blue team, we have been get collecting multiple logs from multiple sources, and we get to have a dedicated team to get monitoring those particular stuff. But when this particular new technology like cloud is get to be emerged, so there it get to be created a new gateway for the adversarial to get intrude into the enterprise infrastructure. So it's became quite tedious for the security team to get monitored both the enterprise and the cloud infrastructure, because there is a bit gap that the understanding over the cloud targeted attacks and the resources over it has been quite low. So that is one of the major issue as in terms of cloud detection, and the techniques which has been get emerged over the cloud is also been quite complex for the detection. So a good detection will always require a good understanding of attack flow. So our webinar will be get following in that way. So we will be first try exploring and understanding the techniques which has been specifically focusing on the cloud initial access stuff. So here I get to be categorizing various tactics and which get to be used specifically by multiple APT groups for the cloud initial access. So we get to have a huge set of APT groups over the enterprise as similar, like we have some popular APT groups like Cozy Bear, Scatter Spider. So those particular APT groups have been specifically um, get targeting the cloud infrastructure for getting access to the infrastructure and exfiltrating sensitive information and etc. So the listed are some the common observed tactics and techniques used by the adversary groups to get intrude into the cloud infrastructure. So as we so the techniques which we are going to hear are listed here. So first we will be exploring the phishing, and there are multiple way of phishing. It's not just a traditional way like the URL or the attachment. So there is a quite evolutionary way in terms of phishing and its associated detection, and how and we will be get understanding how the attackers are being get abusing such valid account to get an initial foothold, and we will be discussing about the impact of exploiting public facing application, especially over the cloud. So before starting, like I will let hold all your question till the end of the session. So once it's get to be ended, so we can have a brief and detailed discussion of various queries and doubts. Okay. So let's start. So in terms of phishing, so phishing, as we know, it's a global threat. Till now, even if there is a huge, tremendous evolution of security solutions like EDRs, XDRs, and email monitoring, email security. Till now, phishing is one of the major threat as in terms of enterprise security, because attackers can use such mail service, like abuse such mail service to get a initial foothold or targeted a weak link in an enterprise to get compromise the particular user account for further exploitation. So this particular phishing has multiple variety, whether the attacker can extract the credential, or they can get to deliver a malware, or they can get to use this particular mail phishing as a droppers. So as in terms of cloud, phishing is majorly is being get experienced in terms of credential extraction. So where there the attackers are being try um, sending a impersonator mail like a similar which is get generated over the cloud to gather the credential. But as we know, like cloud by default has some basic securities like MFA and other monitoring stuff. So the credential phishing was not quite effective as compared to the traditional the enterprise level, because like by default 80-90 percentage of cloud accounts is by default enabled with the MFA. So it's quite complex to get bypass such MFA with this traditional phishing like credential gathering. So this is the first major stuff which has been get commonly used in terms of adversarial attack. So the next would be the AATM. So as we know, like the cloud account is being get protected with the MFA, and it's quite hard for the attackers to get bypass such MFA. So they have been developed such techniques like adversarial in the middle attacks to perform a sophisticated phishing techniques. So where they will be targeting with the various phishing service like the Evilnix to get impersonate as a legit login. So once the user get to be so once the attacker is get to be generating such login, so it will be get forwarded to the user. If the user is been get tricked and if he is been enter such credentials, so it will be get forwarded, and additionally it will be also get asking the MFA. So the MFA validation is also being get bypassed as in terms of AATM exploit. So there are multiple other techniques which has been emerged like so this is one of the traditional way like so the most one of the hardest part in this case of ATM is the detection. So the traditional detection might be quite complex, so we will be detailedly discussing how and what detection can be get implemented as in terms of ATM in our upcoming module. But as of now, so the one of the majorly used initial access techniques as in terms of cloud is being commonly recognized as the adversarial in the middle attack. So, and there is another one of the techniques. It might be kind of phishing, but it's only specifically focused on the cloud infra, like Azure cloud infrastructure. Azure get to have a specific features like a device code where the user get to generate one particular device code which the user can share to another, so they can get to take a session over it. So it's just a simple, elegant authentication way which has been get developed by the Azure. But it has been also observed that the attackers are quite commonly abusing such features to get a um, get a information over it. So to give a like short information about the device code, like just get to consider the attacker can just create a device code like the authentication request, and it can be crafted and send a mail to the targeted victim. So once the victim is get clicked, so it will be get prompted and requested for the code. So once the device code is generated, it will be get fixed with the code. So if the victim is been get tricked and get to enter such code, so the particular session which the victim is get to be actively established, so it will be get transferred to the attacker or the user who's been requested those stuff. So it's as we know that this is a legit way, but the users have been tricking the victim to get access over it. So we will be, as mentioned, for every techniques which we have been discussing now, so we will be elaborately discussing about the detection strategy and how it can be effectively detected in our upcoming stuff. So the next most commonly used techniques over the cloud is been the password spraying. So as we know, like passwords brute forcing is a traditional way of attacks, but it can be easily get detected and prevented over even in the enterprise infrastructure. But as general like cloud, like if somebody is trying to get brute forcing such stuff over the cloud, then it's quite impossible to get perform such attacks. So the one of the effective way of brute forcing is being get termed as password spraying. So as everybody knows, password spraying is quite simple. The user will be get instead of just targeting one user with the multiple password, the attacker will be uh, like trying with one particular password with multiple user. So in such case, there will be a two complexness. One would be the detection, because we won't be getting a huge traffic at similar to the brute force techniques, and second would be the account lockout. So there by default we know, like when we get to enter multiple failed login, so by default our account will be get logged. So it will be become inaccessible, and it's quite hard for the attacker or attackers to get unlock it and to get access over it. So by you effectively using such password spraying stuff, so the attacker can bypass both the security reduction and the account lockout feature. So we will be like, as I mentioned, the attack technique is quite simpler. Instead of just targeting one user with multiple password, the attacker will be target one password with multiple user. So if it is going to be the admin at microsoft.com, it will be admin at 123. So the password will be tested with multiple username, which has been get presented over the um, like cloud environment. So this particular password spray is also get commonly observed over the Azure environment. So why we might be raising some question, like why the Microsoft is also like Azure cloud infra is being get commonly targeted, because by default Azure is get to be providing a feature which like the one of the great, like one of the best access management tool, and which also get easily been synced with the active directory infrastructure. So many enterprise has been quite using the Azure for their access management. So as in terms of initial access, so the majority of the attacks which has been specifically target like the password spraying, device code or AATM is majorly over the Azure Azure targeted cloud. So let's jump into our next technique. It's MFA bypass. So it is also quite complex, because the success rate of this particular bypass techniques was really really low. As we know, like bypassing MFA is possible, but the success rate is quite really low. Um, Attackers might be try brute forcing sometimes, or using various techniques like smishing or some other techniques to get bypass the MFA. So it is also recommended to monitor such activity. So like we will be like these are all the commonly observed techniques as in terms of initial access over the general cloud infrastructure. So let's quickly jump into our next. So here we will be discussing about the public exploiting the public facing application. So as we know, like cloud by default can be offered with various services like the compute instance, storage services, or identity and access management, and lot more. So like exploiting, like in my trade, like if you get to recall, like the exploit public facing application will get to be working on the web application, which is been get deployed and hosted over the enterprise web servers. So if the attacker get to be effectively find some vulnerability over the web app, so they will be try exploiting with various attacks like the OS command injection or file inclusion to get compromised the particular web server, and by doing so they can get an initial foothold to the enterprise infrastructure. So the same will be get applicable over the cloud, because cloud itself like as we know, like the cloud itself get to offer various services which can be get up and running mm, over for the public usage. So the commonly used public accessibility service like the compute, which we can get to spin up in a couple of minutes with the public accessibility, and other services like the S3 um, and other service. So there is one particular interesting use case. So as in terms of um, compute instance. So the attack, like by default they will be get enabled with particular terms called IMDS, um, which allow the users to get access the metadata. So just to be more precise, so when a EC2 is been get spawned over the AWS cloud infrastructure, so the IMDL service will be get enabled, and there will be a particular local service called metadata, which will be get consist of sensitive informations like the credential, role of this particular instance, and the basic information. So the particular metadata will helps the EC to get uh, identify its access and other various control. But just assume a scenario that one of the EC2 is been get acting as a web server, and the web application is get to have some vulnerability like the SSRF or the command injection. So the attacker can get craft some malicious request targeting the metadata to retrieve the sensitive credential of the AWS infrastructure. So this is one of the interesting and real use cases which has been commonly observed when targeting over the such external facing application. So if you get to recollect the capital one data breach, so it will be get happened over the similar pattern. So the attacker is try bypassing the firewall and get accessing the IMDS, like the metadata of the particular VM, so that they can get access successful access into the cloud infrastructure. So the discuss or some of the particular offensive techniques which has been specifically targeted and carried out by the APT groups. So as we know, like we have a wide set of attack range targeting the cloud, like abusing the assume role, like exfiltrating the S3 data, or ransomwaring, or encrypting the S3 data, and other techniques like creating the backdoor, or escalating privileges over like user account. So there are multiple other techniques, but our major techniques is to get explore various attacks and techniques which are specifically focusing on the initial access. So here we have listed few, like let's have a quick recap like what we have been get discussed. So first we have get explore like what are all the phishing techniques, not in just a traditional way, like we get to explore the like the sophisticated phishing like the ATM, and the like how the attackers have been get abusing such device code function. And as in terms of valid accounts, so we have like explore the password spraying and some like MFA bypass attempts, and as in terms of user like suspicious login attempts. So and in terms of exploiting public facing, so we have been get discuss about the like the IMDS enabled public compute engine. So here we get to have a understanding how the attacks is get to be happened over the cloud infrastructure, especially focusing on the initial access vector. So there will be a huge question how it can be detected over the cloud. So like so as we know, like there is a huge gap, like in enterprise we will be get accumulating with multiple logs over the host machine, firewall, and other security solutions like EDRs, XDRs, SI, like Sysmon. Like there will be a huge lot of services and servers where we will be collecting logs and pushing forwarding to the centralized logging and monitoring, and we will be creating some custom detection rule to get monitor and identifying those threats. But what will be the detection in terms of cloud? So like by default cloud services like the AWS, Azure, and GCP is get to be offering various native cloud security tools like guard duty, Sentinel, uh, so other services for their inbuilt secure, like for their cloud security purposes. But as fact, like the 90 percentage of attack detection is get to be identified and prevented using the centralized logging and monitoring, even if we have some advanced technology like the XGRs and EDRs. So till like various attack techniques has been get effectively identified and discovered using such logging and monitoring techniques. So we are not just going to discuss about like how effectively we will be collecting logs and we will be get investigating those. Like we are just going to explore about the direction approach, like how this particular attack can be get directed and what are all the various way to get identify such stuff. So yeah, so let's start. So here to simplify this particular explanation, I just get to create a flowchart. So yeah, so let me quickly share the flowchart over the message group. So the mind map will help you to understand the direction strategy. Feel free to refer those links so you will be get to see the particular mind map. So as we discussed here, so we will be majorly focusing on the phishing, valid account, and exploit public facing application. So let's first jump into our phishing. So yes, in terms of phishing, we get to discuss about the three. Like one would be the credential phishing. So as we know, like the traditional phishing investigation, so where we will be performing and analyzing the sender and receivers and to um, validate the legitimacy and authenticity of the sender. So we will be performing header analysis and as in terms of URL validation, so we will be correlating with multiple Intel platform like VT and other sources, or even in sometimes you will be get executing such identify URL in the sandbox infrastructure. So traditional doesn't require a much introduction, so because people will get to know about it over the period of time. But the techniques like ATM is it need to be get handled and tackled in a very good way, because these particular ATMs have been quite hard to get identified and identified over the logging and monitoring purpose. So the first and foremost traditional way of detecting the ATM is to apply a geographical or geo-region restriction. So we will be prioritizing the login activity which is get accumulated over the cloud infrastructure, and we will be get setting a restriction of geolocation where the employees was not authorized to get perform the login. So it might be seems to be a simpler rule, but for the effective ATM detection, this is going to be a help a lot in it's identifying such suspicious activity. As we know, like if you get to seeing the diagram, so the attackers will be get generating such login from a different geographical region. But if the user does not get to be belong to this particular region, then we will be proceed investigating its legitimacy. So the second and foremost detection pattern is to get deploying the canary tokens. So canary tokens, as you been get to be explained in a simpler way, those are all the honeypot techniques. So there is one particular technique called CSS canary token. So what we will be get doing is, so we will be get setting up our decoy over the sign in page of our cloud environment. See if the user is trying to perform the AATM attacks using such tools like Evilgenix. So we can get to identify and prevent such login impersonation. So the complex, like the understanding might be quite harder, but the conceptual is get to be simpler. So let me try to explain in a simpler way. If it is get to be a ATM, so what get to be happen generally, so the attacker will be try impersonating using the template of the Evelgenix. Once the user enter the credential, the particular credential will be get validated to the original Azure login. Okay, so this will be get forwarded to the Azure login portal, and once it's validated, so it will be returned back and returned back to the user. So this is how it work. But by deploying the CSS canary token in our sign in page, what exactly we can get to do is, so we can deploy a function which can get monitor the domains request. For example, the phishing domains have been even the attacker might can try impersonate, but the exact replication of domain names have been quite impossible. So if I'm just get acquiring securecorp.com, so the attacker can try to get impersonate such domain in a closer way, but it can't be exactly uh, um, impersonated. But the user can be get tricked with some like special characters or some other techniques. So in like what I'm just trying to explain here is how the canary css canary token is get to be worked. So we will be get deploying our decoy over our legit sign in page. So once if it is get to be requested from a different domain, then we will be get alerted with the like a mail or in terms of alerts. So this helps to effectively identify the ATM. So feel free to explore the conceptual understanding of the CSS canary token. It was quite good. And the final and third recommended way to apply the conditional access policy. So this is get to be quite similar to the geographical or geo-region based stuff, but the conditional access policy which is get offered by the cloud services like the Azure, which is not only get focusedly identifying the suspicious request from the geolocation, but there are other correlation like whether it is the first time the attacker is trying, like if the user is trying login from the particular region. So there are multiple facts which has been get correlated and validated as in terms of conditional access policy. So here we have been get provided with some detection queries. So where we are like it has been get queried using the like the elastic query. So here we are just prioritizing the file like the index. So where we are just prioritizing the sign in activity which has the event outcome of success, and we will be validating based on the IP and the geo country location. So if this particular like we can get to set the IP which are need to be excluded, and the country which is get to be excluded from our detection. So this is how the detection it will be work. So feel free to redirect to the link so which I've been get shared, so you will be get to accessing those, so you will have a better ideology over it. So the second technique is get to be the valid account detection. So here we will be the first detection complexness is to identify the password spraying. So as we understand the attack techniques of password spraying, it's not similar to the password brute forcing where we will be not get accumulating with multiple requests over a particular IP or a different IP. So we won't be get observing a fail login in a very short term of frame because the like the attack techniques itself a different approach. So by detecting that is a quite complex thing. So one baseline detection which we have been get observed is to monitoring the user agent which is get to be performing the sign in activity. So here we have been monitoring the sign in activity which is get initiated by the Python. So as we know, like in terms of automated attacks, so we'll be commonly using such tools which have been developed by like Python or other particular like the C sharp or some other stuff. So we will be specifically monitoring such user agent to identify the suspicious sign in login. So it's not a complete detection strategy. So it helps to detect it. It is a baseline stuff. So where you can get to add some multiple more criterias to effectively identify such stuff, because some inbuilt application or the enterprise will also get to performing such activity. So it's not recommended to get directly block such stuff, but it also helps to identify such malicious activity. So the second most would be the detecting multiple MFA failed attempts. So as I said, like initially the attackers, as in terms of initial stage, we get to observe the attackers try to brute force the MFA validation. So that the success rate of such stuff was quite low, but we will either we need to in such case also we will be deploying some multiple detection and monitoring tool where we will be specifically monitoring the console login, like the interactive login with the failed outcome which has been specifically related to the MFA. So where we can also apply various constraints like the time range, like threshold limit, so you can get to define such stuff to effectively identify such MFA failed activity. So coming down to the third stuff, like privilege escalation activity. So here we have been get covered the assume role, because assume role based privilege escalation was quite interesting. So I will be get showing you one interesting lab where you can actually perform these assume based targeted attacks, and the actual live investigation over this particular assume role privilege escalation. So, and another techniques for the valid account is the access key creation. So once the attacker get compromised the cloud, there must be the high possibility the attacker can create their own credential to get deploy the backdoor over it. So uh, role which get the rule which get to be assigned here will be effectively monitoring such access key creation activity, where we can apply various restriction over the administration account, and we can also apply various threshold over it. So here come to our final part, like of the particular detection strategy for the exploit public facing application, which here we have discussed about the uh, like abusing of the compute service, the IMDS enabled compute service. So the one challenging part of the detection here is like it will be not get to be logged under the cloud native services. Like for example, like just assumes like you are spinning up EC2 in a AWS infrastructure, and you have been get deployed a web application which is vulnerable to SSR for the command injection. So the attacker can get perform the such a metadata retrieval over it. The above we have been prioritizedly collected logs from the cloud infrastructure, and we have added multiple correlation over the queries, but we can't do the same over the particular IMDS based detection because it is happening over the host machine. So in such case, so we will need to capture the network traffic, and we will be also capturing the request and response which is get happening over the application which get deployed over the compute instance. So here we have mentioned the path which have been commonly observed as in terms of metadata retrieval. So like if the network traffic is get consist or get to be having such queries like latest metadata, identity credential, security credential, EC2 instance. So this is the exact metadata query which has been get used for extracting the like access key and secret key, and other information like the AMD ID and host name and public IP which is associated with the application. So these are all the field which need to be effectively monitored. So here we have been get given with the network based queries. So this is get to be the network traffic query, so where we have been prioritizing the HTTP, and we will be specifically monitoring the IP address of 169.254.169.254. So this is a static IP which is get assigned to the metadata service. So if the compute itself need to get request any information, so this will be get using such IP for performing the retrieval. So we will be like prioritizing the IP, and we will be monitoring such a request which is get initiated. So here or the so this is the actually the detection strategy which can be get to implemented over the techniques which we have been get discussed previously. So as I said, like we have been end of our like we are just near to the end of the session. So to give a quick recap, so initially we have been discussing about various techniques which is get mentioned over the MITRE attack framework, and we have been get explored various specific technique and techniques which is used by the adversarial group to perform a initial access over the cloud infrastructure. So once we have a good understanding, so we have been explored various detection recommendation which can be used effectively in terms of such attacks. So and we have been also get provided with a detailed mind map, so you will get to have a good understanding over it. So like before concluding, so as we said, like we have two new updates in our labs. So we recently came up with one of interesting lab simulation, so where the user can get learn and understanding various techniques which has been get to be performed by various adversarial groups over multiple domains. So feel free to refer our Infinity. So here you will get to see multiple domains including cloud security, DevOps, Kubernetes, on-prem security, and APT labs. So the thing which we are just going to explore is going to be the APT labs. So right now we get to have two APT challenges which is get to be simulated in the real way. So the one techniques which we are get discussed over our challenge is the ATM. So to have a better understanding, so feel free to visit the challenges. So we it's the challenges is not only like we are also get provided you with the solution, so you will have a very detailed understanding how this particular ATM is get to be performed. So let me share the link over the chat, so you will be get easy for visiting. So additionally, like we also get published one particular blog for such stuff in a detailed way. Like if you get to need to explore such stuff, so you feel free to refer it to. So here it's time to conclude our webinar. So once again, thanks for joining. So if you have any queries or like queries, feel free to drop it over the chat. So the recording of the particular session and the materials will also be get forwarded to our registered mail ID with with their participation certificate. Yeah. So feel free to drop your query. So if you get to have any. Okay. So I guess there is no such stuff. So yeah. Thanks for joining. Have a great day.